Red Hood. Jason Todd wasn't supposed to come back. After all, he'd been beaten to death by the Joker and blown to pieces. That panel of Batman cradling his lifeless body became one of the most iconic tragedies in comic history. But years later, DC flipped the switch. Jason didn't just return, he returned angry, and he wasn't wearing Robin's tights anymore. He showed up in a red helmet, packing heat, and with one goal: put Gotham's criminals in the ground before they could reoffend. Under the Red Hood was the reset. This wasn't some cheap resurrection, it was a violent reintroduction. Jason held nothing back, killing, maiming, and executing gangsters while mocking Batman for his no-kill code. And it hit deep. Jason's big question wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. Why is Joker still breathing? And Batman had no answer. That conflict never really healed. Red Hood's early days were defined by rage and trauma, but over time he evolved into something harder to define. He wasn't out for chaos, he wanted control. His logic was simple: if crime can't be stopped, then it should be managed, with fear and blood. When he teamed up with Bizarro and Artemis during Rebirth, fans saw a more layered Jason. Still violent, still unpredictable, but capable of loyalty. He even trained students at one point. That's growth, sort of. But DC never really knew what to do with him. One day he's shooting mobsters. The next, he's hanging out with Nightwing like nothing happened. The deeper you dig, the more broken pieces you find. Abandonment, betrayal, death, rebirth. He's not a hero, never was, but he's also not just a villain anymore. He became Gotham's wildcard, too brutal for the Bat family, too moral for the League of Assassins. The line he keeps crossing is one he drew himself: Harley Quinn. For Harley, she didn't enter comics the usual way. She started in Batman, the animated series, a throwaway sidekick written by Paul Dini, voiced by Arlene Sorkin. But fans latched on instantly. She was quirky, tragic, unpredictable, and completely under the Joker's thumb. The early dynamic wasn't just toxic, it was disturbing. Joker used her, beat her, abandoned her, and she always came crawling back with a grin. Eventually, writers had had enough. Harley broke free, and that pivot changed everything. In the Gotham City Sirens run, she started teaming up with Catwoman and Poison Ivy. Still chaotic, still violent, but now guided by her own instincts. She wasn't a hero, but she had a conscience, especially when it came to women being exploited or underestimated. Then came New 52, where DC cranked the dial and gave Harley her own title. That's when the transformation went from subtle to full-blown brand shift. She became Deadpool light. Fourth wall breaks, cartoon violence, jokes over depth, and somewhere in the chaos they skipped the part where she actually earned redemption. In one Forever Evil tie-in, she literally blew up kids with rigged gaming consoles. Not metaphorically, actually did that. Then, just a year later, she's hanging with the Bat family and cracking jokes in Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. That shift confused a lot of longtime readers. Was Harley reformed or rebooted? Did her redemption arc come from within or from popularity and merch sales? In her best stories, like Paul Dini's Detective Comics issue with Scarface, Harley's pain, guilt, and self-awareness shine through. There's a version of her that wants to be better and struggles to stay there. But in recent years, DC seems more interested in turning her into a brand mascot than exploring that struggle. She escaped the Joker, but she might have traded one identity crisis for another: Deathstroke. Slade Wilson wasn't designed to be misunderstood. He was built to be feared. A super soldier with a genius-level mind, enhanced reflexes, and zero hesitation when it came to taking lives. His early days in the New Teen Titans made that clear. This wasn't a guy playing villain for laughs. He was the final boss. What made him worse was that he didn't see himself as evil, just efficient. Then came the Judas Contract, one of the darkest chapters in DC history. Deathstroke manipulated a teenage Tara into helping him destroy the Titans from within. It was calculated, disturbing, and crossed a line few villains ever dared. For years, that moment defined him, not just as a mercenary, but as something far more twisted. Yet somehow DC kept bringing him back, and fans kept cheering, because Slade was cold, calculated, and charismatic. He had the aura, the drip, the reputation. Writers tried to dig deeper, give him layers, explore his failures as a father, his twisted code of honor, his inability to form real connections. But every time someone tried to repaint him as an anti-hero, that one question lingered: how do you redeem a man who deliberately destroys people's lives for profit? Christopher Priest's Rebirth run didn't dodge that question. It charged straight into it. Priest wrote Slade as a manipulative sociopath, someone who wanted love but didn't know how to give it, who protected his family while simultaneously ruining them. The run was non-linear, dense, and brutal, and it worked. It didn't excuse Deathstroke, it exposed him. Today, Slade's image swings wildly, from Titan's villain to Suicide Squad weapon to honorary anti-hero. But beneath all the cool armor and tactical brilliance, one thing hasn't changed. He's still the guy who finds your weak spot and shatters it. That's not redemption. That's just precision. Magneto. Magneto entered Marvel history as the face of mutant extremism. Helmet, cape, Holocaust survivor past, his mission was clear: protect mutant kind by any means necessary. From the jump, he wasn't robbing banks or building death rays. He was declaring war, not on heroes, but on a world that kept trying to erase his people. And for decades, Magneto played the role well. Founder of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, attacker of cities, attempted world conqueror. But even in his earliest stories, there were hints. He wasn't out for power. He was fighting trauma with firepower. His pain wasn't an excuse, it was a blueprint. The turning point came in the late 80s and early 90s. After losing his closest allies and watching humanity edge closer to extinction, Magneto surrendered himself to the X-Men. Not because he was reformed, but because he believed he could lead mutant kind better than Xavier. And he tried. He ran the school. He led the New Mutants. He even fought alongside his old enemies. But peace was never his comfort zone. Writers leaned into that tension. Every time Magneto tried to lead, something pulled him back, whether it was betrayal, political collapse, or sheer rage. In House of M, he stood by as his daughter rewrote reality. In Utopia, he served under Cyclops. And in Krakoa, he sat on the ruling council, diplomatic robe and all. But even on his best days, Magneto remained sharp-edged. When diplomacy failed, he didn't hesitate to drop satellites from orbit or rip Sentinels in half. He was no one's pet project. He didn't switch sides. He reshaped the battlefield, one where mutants didn't need to be pitied or saved. They just needed someone who wouldn't blink when things got ugly. That was his gift, and that's why, no matter what he's wearing, he's still the scariest ally you could ask for. Venom. Eddie Brock had one mission: destroy Spider-Man. After losing his job, his credibility, and his pride, Eddie found a symbiote that hated Peter Parker just as much as he did. Together, they created Venom, Marvel's most terrifying stalker. He knew Peter's identity, his weaknesses, his address, and he didn't want world domination. He wanted revenge with teeth. In the late 80s and early 90s, Venom was unstoppable. He was stronger than Spider-Man, immune to his spider sense, and fueled by pure hatred. But readers didn't reject him. They were hooked, because for all his violence, Eddie had a twisted sense of honor. He didn't hurt innocents. He saved women and children. He saw himself as a protector, just one who left bodies behind. That angle exploded in Lethal Protector, where Venom moved to San Francisco and took on an entire underground city. He fought crime his own way, vicious, brutal, and messy, but his intentions were shifting, and Marvel leaned into it. As the symbiote evolved, so did Eddie. He went from being a failed journalist with a grudge to a broken man trying to be a better father, a better host, and eventually, a cosmic powerhouse. When Donny Cates took over the character in the 2010s, Venom became central to Marvel's universe, not just as a player, but as a king. In King in Black, Eddie didn't just fight evil, he wiped it out with an army of symbiotes and took the throne as the new god of the symbiotes. He didn't lose his bite, he gained purpose. He still rips people apart when necessary, but now he's one of Earth's defenders, just not one you want showing up at your door. Loki. He was never just a villain, he was the problem. The unpredictable piece of Asgard's royal mess that no one could fully trust, but no one could completely stop. Thor swung hammers, Odin gave speeches, but Loki? He played chess with reality. His first appearances in Marvel Comics were pure chaos, traps, illusions, betrayal, all delivered with a grin. But even at his worst, Loki had something that set him apart. He didn't crave destruction. He craved relevance, recognition. He wanted to be seen, not just as a trickster, but as something more. And over time, that desperation turned into reinvention. During Journey into Mystery, Loki literally died and came back as a child, wiped clean of his past, trying to outrun his own reputation. And it worked. Kid Loki was clever, kind-hearted, and terrified of becoming the monster everyone remembered. Readers connected to that version, maybe more than any other. Then came Agent of Asgard, a self-aware, pansexual, morally flexible Loki trying to write his own legend while the universe tried to pull him back into the role of the villain. That series made one thing clear: he wasn't trying to save the world. He was trying to rewrite the story everyone kept telling about him. And of course, the MCU happened. Hiddleston's Loki brought charm, sadness, and a whole lot of memes. From faking deaths to backstabbing Thanos, to crying in an elevator, he became Marvel's most popular redemption arc. But even now, Loki is still Loki. He'll save your life, then steal your lunch. He'll fight side by side with heroes, then disappear when the credits roll. The shift didn't make him noble, it made him complicated. Catwoman. Selina Kyle started out as a simple thief with a cat theme and a habit of walking past security like it didn't exist. No laser guns, no secret formulas, just whip skills, rooftop acrobatics, and nerves of steel. From day one, she wasn't out to destroy Gotham. She just wanted to take from the rich and look good doing it. But Catwoman didn't stay in the background for long. Her chemistry with Batman flipped the script. She wasn't a random crook. She was the one who made the world's greatest detective hesitate. They fought, they flirted, they saved each other's lives. And every time Batman drew the line, Selina danced right on top of it. Writers saw the potential and ran with it. Ed Brubaker's run gave her depth, putting her in the East End, protecting abused women, and showing what her moral code actually looked like. She didn't follow the law, but she had rules. And when Gotham fell apart, she didn't hide. She showed up. Whether it was No Man's Land or City of Bane, Catwoman had Batman's back, even if she robbed a museum the day after. Then came Tom King's Batman run. That story took their relationship from slow burn to full wedding plans. And while the ceremony didn't go through, it solidified Selina's status, not just as a love interest, but as Batman's closest equal. She knew who he was under the mask and didn't try to change him. She just kept him grounded. Over the years, Selina has stolen from mobsters, helped take down corrupt politicians, and even led her own crew. She's walked through Arkham, survived Leviathan, and always came out with her claws clean. She isn't a villain rebranded. She's a survivor who rewrote the rules and somehow made Gotham hers without ever needing permission. The Punisher. Frank Castle didn't start as a symbol. He wasn't a mutant, a god, or a billionaire. He was a Marine who watched his family get gunned down in a park and decided the law wasn't enough. From his first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man number 129, the message was clear. Castle doesn't arrest criminals, he buries them. What made Punisher stand out was the simplicity. No powers, no hesitation. Just a military arsenal and a warpath through New York's underworld. While Spider-Man tried to tie up crooks and deliver them to jail, Frank blew holes through mob bosses and left calling cards shaped like skulls. And fans didn't look away. Instead, they followed him into the shadows. Welcome Back. Frank by Garth Ennis redefined the character for a new era. Sharper writing, darker stories, and a sense of humor buried under blood-stained sarcasm. Frank wasn't just brutal, he was methodical, and his code was frighteningly consistent. But over time, the world changed. Real-life violence crept too close. People started wearing the Skull logo for the wrong reasons. Marvel pulled back, redesigning his emblem and stripping him of guns in newer runs. Critics asked, can a character like this exist in today's world without being misused? Through it all, Frank Castle never stopped being exactly who he is. He's fought Spider-Man, Daredevil, the Avengers, and even the US military. Sometimes he's the villain. Sometimes he's the secret weapon no one wants to call. But redemption? That was never the plan. Black Manta. His origin isn't clean. Over the years, DC's rewritten it multiple times. Child slave, abused runaway, mercenary. But one thing stayed constant. His obsession with killing Aquaman. He didn't want Atlantis. He didn't want to rule the sea. He just wanted Arthur Curry's head. That singular hatred made him one of DC's most dangerous villains. Cold, ruthless, and laser-focused. His worst moment was killing Aquababy, Arthur's infant son. In canon, no trick, no fake-out, just an underwater dome filled with no oxygen and no remorse. That was the line most villains don't cross, and Black Manta crossed it with intent. So when DC started pushing redemption arcs, few fans expected Manta to be on the list. But then came the Aquaman, the Becoming and Black Manta miniseries. After exposure to ancient Atlantean magic, Manta was forced to confront his own trauma, literally. The artifact made him relive his past, re-examine his choices, and face the monster he'd become. For a short moment, Manta wasn't just angry, he was reflective. That led to uneasy alliances with Aquaman and, more importantly, his son, Kaldur Am, better known as Aqualad in Young Justice. Watching Black Manta and Kaldur interact created real tension. He was a father trying to rebuild a bridge while still carrying decades of blood on his hands. But that sliver of redemption didn't last. Manta snapped back. The violence returned. The hate never left. DC tried to humanize him, but it only exposed how deep the damage ran. He doesn't wear a crown. He wears a helmet that fires laser beams and never shows his face. Because under all the tech and vengeance, he knows exactly who he is, and he's not sorry for any of it. Red Skull. He's not a tragic figure or a misunderstood soul. He's exactly what his name implies, a walking symbol of hate, built from the ashes of war and propaganda. Created in 1941 as Captain America's arch-nemesis, Johann Schmidt was the face of Hydra, the Nazi war machine in human form. He didn't just oppose Cap, he represented everything Cap was created to destroy. While other villains got makeovers and redemption arcs, Red Skull stayed locked in place. Marvel never softened him, never gave him a sympathy card. He committed war crimes, played mind games, times and launched global chaos with a grin. And readers knew the line, Red Skull wasn't the guy you redeem. He was the final boss of morality. Still, that didn't stop the discourse. As newer fans entered the scene, some wondered if Red Skull would ever be reimagined, like Magneto or Loki. The answer was loud, no, because once you cross into genocide and fascism, you're not getting a second act. Not even in what-if stories. In Captain America, Red Menace and the Death of Captain America arcs, Skull faked deaths, hijacked minds, and infiltrated American politics. In Uncanny Avengers, he grafted Xavier's brain to his own to become the Red Onslaught. And in Secret Empire, an evil version of Cap, spawned from Skull's manipulations, nearly tore Marvel's universe apart. Red Skull's legacy is so toxic that just including him in a video game or animated show sparks outrage. He's not a character people want to see evolve. He's a reminder of what's unforgivable. So now that you've seen every villain who made the jump, who actually earned it, and who just got lucky because fans forgot what they did, if one of these anti-heroes had to fall back into full villainy, who would cause the most damage? Share your thoughts in the comments section below as you leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.